Okay, Anne. So as you know, you have 15 minutes to present, and after your presentation, you'll have a seat and you'll receive questions from the commission. You may start now.
Okay. Good afternoon, audience. Good afternoon, part of the commission. And the present research study is called Factors Involving Engaging Students' Attention in an Integrated English Course. This study emerged in the internship experience at Universidad Santo Tomás University, specifically in an Intermediate 1 English course. This class was compounded by 27 students who belong to different programs at the university. For example, medical technology, agronomy, geology, among others. It was found in the literature that different authors have focused on engagement, but they focus on how to how to enhance the students' engagement when applying different strategies such as the teacher autonomy and the impact of video games. However, they didn't mention anything about what factors are involved in this engagement. In the context, it was possible to observe that the students showed lack of engagement in the lessons since the classes were teacher-centered and they had a lack of opportunities to talk and to share with their classmates. For this reason, the purpose of this study is to become teachers aware of the factors that involve students' engagement in order to create an inclusive classroom. And so, the research question that emerged in this context is what are the factors involved in students' engagement in an EFL class? The general objective is to understand the factors that engage students' attention. In order to answer this objective, two different specific objectives were stated. First, to identify the external factors, such as classroom environment, classroom arrangement, teaching strategies, among others, and to identify the internal factors that engage students' attention, such as interest, emotional problems, among others. It was assumed that all these factors have somehow they are involved in the student's engagement, and the external factors can modify the student's attention in the classroom, despite the internal factors don't allow them to pay attention. The theoretical framework. The student's engagement was defined as the degree of attention that the students show to learn, and this is observed in the context as the frequency of attention of the students. Regarding the internal factors, motivation was described as the desire to participate and to reach a goal, which was observed as the participation of the students, and it was elicited as the students' belief of their self-perceived motivation regarding the course. Regarding interest, this is defined as the preferences of topic that leads to a meaningful learning. This is observed as the different topics that are related to the student's context. The emotional problems has to do with the feelings of anger and frustration that students have to face. The students can internalize these feelings and being shy, or they can externalize these feelings and become disruptive in the lesson. This is going to be, it was elicited from the students with the help of one of the instruments. Regarding the external factors, the classroom environment is defined as an instrument of socialization, and this could be observed as the climate created in the lesson. The classroom arrangement has to do with the seating arrangement, which can be traditional in rows, semicircle, or modular, which is in groups of 4 or 5 students. This was observed as the seating arrangement used by the teacher, which were traditional and semicircle. Finally, the teacher strategies has to do with the enthusiasm and relationship that the teacher creates with the students. And this was observed as the opportunities that the teacher gave to the students in order to have a communication. One of the emerging categories of the present study has to do with social culture. This is defined as different factors such as ethnicity, education, location that can affect the lifestyle of the participants. This was observed as the location that the students said that they live too far from the university. The methodological framework, well, the present study follows an interpretive paradigm since used a small sampling, and it started with an open-ended question rather than a hypothesis. It also follows the qualitative approach since, as I said, uses a small sampling of your participant because it gives less consideration to generalizability. It also led the different categories to emerge from the phenomenon. The methodology used in this study is ethnography, in which the researcher studies an intact group in a natural setting. It also uses a small number of participants. The procedure of this study was divided into 4 steps. In the first step, the researcher has to observe the context in order to come up with a problem. After this, it was necessary to do a research in the literature in order to identify the units of meaning and related them with the context. After stating these possible categories or factors, it was necessary to identify the key informants who can give the researcher the necessary information to understand this phenomenon and to answer the research question. Finally, these participants were interviewed to gather this necessary information. The sample used in this study is of 6 students at the first point who were selected according to maximum variation sampling explained by list, in which the extremes are used. In this case, according to the frequency of attention criteria. These students were between 19 and 25 years old. In order to answer the research question, different materials were created and applied to the students and teacher. First, the field notes in which the researcher was immersed in the context as ethnography design explained. then the questionnaire, which it was applied to these 6 students. The question in these questionnaires had to do with the internal and external factors. However, there was 2 questions in which the researcher could elicit a possible emerging category. The questionnaire was used to select the 3 participants who can go further in their answers and to give more information about the phenomenon. So once they were selected, the interviews were applied to them. And the question had to do with the same factors, but they had a chance to go beyond their answers in the questionnaires. And the teacher interview had to do with the same factors, but his beliefs regarding the phenomenon. The analysis used in this study was the grounded theory coding technique. The data gathered with the help of these instruments mentioned were segmented into different codes, which is called open coding. After this, these codes were grouped into main categories, which are the ones aforementioned regarding internal and external factors. Finally, in the selecting coding stage, the emerging categories were added to the main categories. The considerations on trustworthiness. First, this study meets credibility since the instruments created and applied to the students and teachers went through a validation protocol in which different experts validate the materials. Also, regarding dependability, it has to do with the selection of the participants, since, as I said, the students were not fixed, but they had to comply with the description regarding the frequency of attention. And it was also a place to emerge different categories, despite the study started with different factors. Regarding confirmability, the study meets triangulation as well, since the phenomenon was analyzed from different points of view and with the help of different instruments. And the findings can make transferability if the setting, context, and sample have similar characteristics which were described in detail in the present study. Regarding the findings, it is possible to say that the students and the teacher agreed that the classroom arrangement helps them in terms of communication rather than on engaging students' attention. This is connected with the theory, since McCarthy explained that the seating arrangement helped the students with communication and not with attention. Regarding the emotional problems, the students agreed that they have been affected by the emotional problems and when paying attention in the lesson. And the teachers said that this is a factor that affects the students, however, he cannot do anything about this. This is partially connected with the theory of learning, since he stated that the emotional problems of the students are internal, so the teacher can be aware of these factors, or they cannot be aware. However, they should consider this, or they should become aware of these factors, since can disrupt or can be affecting the students' attention. Regarding the social factor, the students said that they arrive late to the lesson and they don't have enough time to eat something before the lesson, because the distance between the university and their homes is too long. So this is considered as a social factor because it has to do with the location. The limitation has to do with time, since the present research study covers many different factors, and they couldn't be analyzed in depth. So if because of time constraints, of course. Also the sampling, since the students who participate in this study are only 3 students, and it can be possible to have different points of view from other students in order to compare their answers and to come up with different categories maybe. Also in the interview, since some of the students took the interview in pairs, so maybe the answers could have been biased or replicated. Regarding the contributions of this study, has to do with the Universal Design for Learning, which is a set of principles for designing a curriculum, an inclusive curriculum. And one of the factors taken into account is the affective networks, which has to do with the engagement of the students. So it will be important that the teacher becomes aware and can apply different strategies in order to engage the students, in order to improve the teaching practice. And this is also connected to the government, since the governments are in charge of implementing this inclusive curriculum in order to attain all the students and give them the opportunity to have an education, an inclusive education in this case. The suggestion for further research has to do with the focusing on the different emerging categories such as group size and students' expectation, which were not considered in this study because of time constraints. Also, since motivation is a broad factor, it was not possible to go in depth in the present study. So it would be interesting that further research focus on motivation as a predominant factor in the students' engagement. The metacognitive analysis, regarding the research study, I can say that my strength has to do with perseverance, since this has been a difficult process in which I had to face difficulties, and I never gave up. My weaknesses and challenges has to do with time management and self-confidence, since this is all new. I still don't feel the enough confidence to carry out a research, and so I have to ask all the time to follow the process, and also because since I feel a lack of confidence about this, I left everything to last minute, so I cannot manage my time properly. Regarding the internship, my strength is planning, since the students and I have are the same age, so I could foresee some possible problems or answers of the students. So I was ready for all the students' answers. And the weaknesses and challenges has to do with the disconnection because of my obsession of having everything under control. And I'm always thinking about what I'm going to do next, or different things in order to carry out deliver the lesson like perfect. So my teachers said that I seem to be disconnected to the lesson because I'm thinking about different things, and this can be a problem for my students since they can feel a bit insecure with my teaching practice, and probably they can feel like my lack of confidence, probably, or they can feel lack of confidence regarding my teaching practice. So of course it's going to be a challenge that I had to have to fix.
You may now have a seat.